Good morning to all. Let's try that again. Good morning to all. And welcome to the Caribbean Tourism Organization's Destination Media Briefings for 2022. My name is Kevin Pyle, Communications Consultant with the CTO, and I will be your host for today's briefings. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome all ministers of government, directors of tourism, CEOs, other officials, and stakeholders, our media partners, local, regional, and international, for what should be an engaging next several hours. These briefings are also being streamed live on CTO's Facebook platform, so we also welcome those viewing online. A special welcome to the officials seated to my right, the Honorable Kenneth Bryan, the Cayman Islands Minister of Tourism and Transport, and Rosa Harris, the Cayman Islands Director of Tourism. Welcome. Today's Destination Briefings event is the first in a week of activities which incorporate CTO's business meetings on Tuesday, IATA's Caribbean Aviation Day on Wednesday, and CTO's Youth Congress on Thursday. This week's events are being hosted in collaboration with the Cayman Islands Ministry of Tourism and Department of Tourism, and we are grateful for their support and their hospitality. For those of you who are visiting, if you have the time available in your schedules, I encourage you to experience the best Cayman Islands has to offer before you leave. I certainly intend to. Today we will hear from respective ministers of tourism and directors of tourism as they update you, the media, on tourism developments and related matters in their respective countries. Each speaker has been allotted 20 minutes with 5 minutes at the end for questions from the media. So I urge all speakers and the media, as it relates to Q&As, to, how best do I put this? Exercise the utmost fidelity in the time allotments, because we do have a packed schedule. Now, what makes these briefings so significant is the fact that they're the first ones to be held in person since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic 2 years ago, and that's significant. So if you are attending today, consider yourself a part of history in the Cayman Islands. Some quick housekeeping rules. Kindly ensure that all mobile devices are placed on silent. This is to avoid any interruptions during presentations. So, if you're like me and your memory is slowly beginning to elude you, I would suggest now that you check, double check, and triple check that all devices are on silent. Secondly, once speakers have completed their presentations, you, the members of the media, will be free to ask questions. Kindly raise your hand. A microphone will be brought to you. You can state your name, your media house, and your question. I'm urging you, limit your questions to one at a time so we can accommodate everyone. We will break for lunch around midday, but please feel free to refresh yourselves in between presentations. Off to my left, there's a tea, coffee, and water juice stations, so you can refresh yourselves in between presentations. Now, at this time, it is only fitting that our hosts, the Cayman Islands, lead off these historic briefings. So allow me to welcome the Cayman Islands Minister of Tourism and Transport, the Honorable Kenneth Bryan. Minister Bryan.
Good morning, everyone. Hopefully my mic is doing well. We good to go? All right. Good morning, everyone. It's great to see you all here. As the Minister for Tourism, I am immensely proud to be the host of the CTO and IATA conference. But it would be remiss of me before we move forward not to take this opportunity to salute our passing Queen Elizabeth II. It's been a difficult time for our islands, our Commonwealth, and the world. We just want to celebrate and acknowledge the amazing 96 years that she shined her light across the world and across the seas. And because of her light, I, as a Caymanian, is able to stand here in front of you today. To our international media, I'd like to say thank you so much for putting your lives on hold for a week to join us here in the Cayman Islands. I hope that you will find these meetings engaging and informative, and I hope that you write loads of amazing things after the conference, but particularly about the Cayman Islands. To our local media, thank you so much for being here as well. It's good to have you here with us, although I know that you're much more familiar than the international media with our tourism industry, but I hope you too learned something new that perhaps you didn't know before. I'm very happy to be kicking off the Destination Briefings, and I will start by presenting some insights from our tourism visitation stats to provide an idea of how our tourism industry is recovering as we, like our Caribbean neighbors, focus on rebuilding this sector. I would like to use our time today to discuss the Cayman Islands tourism performance for the first half of this year. I will also provide an outline of how the industry have been trending and where we plan to be by the year end. And I want you to recognize I said plan to be and not hope to be. But first, I'd like to give you a very brief overview of some of the distinctive and appealing attributes of our three beautiful islands, Grand Cayman, Cayman Brac, and Little Cayman. The Cayman Islands is situated 480 miles south of Miami, which is just an hour's flight away, and is close to our primary source market, the United States, making the travel for our visitors very quick and convenient. Our two international airports are well served by some of the world's leading airlines, and though we don't observe daylight savings time, local time is never more than an hour difference from Eastern Standard Time. More than 135 different nationalities reside within our shores, making us the most diversely populated Caribbean island in the whole region. Aside from our friendliness of our people and our natural beauties that surrounds us above and below the Caribbean Sea, our modern infrastructure and state-of-the-art communication systems places us on par with the most advanced countries in the world. These are just some of the competitive advantages that make our jurisdiction stand out from anywhere else within this region. When you add the fact that we are politically stable and we have no form of direct taxation, not on personal or corporate income, not on profits or gains from investments, not on properties or foreign exchange, it's easy to understand why investors and tourists are drawn to our shores. The Cayman Islands economy is driven by the financial services and tourism, with the financial services sector being the dominant contributor. We currently rank as one of the world's largest financial services providers with the highest percentage of global hedge funds domiciled in the Cayman Islands. Moving straight into our tourism performance results. Between January and June of this year, the Cayman Islands welcomed over 114,000 stayover visitors, which represents 41% of our air arrivals recorded at the same period in 2019. Between January and April, we moved from 6 to 12 to 23 to 25,000 visitors, respectively, with April's arrivals equating to 55% of April 2019. Visitation was moving in the right direction with an upward trajectory, indicating that our tourism recovery was strengthening. In June, arrivals were at the mark of 26,000, rising to over 32,000 in the month of July. Our July arrivals represent 63% of where we were in July of 2019. I should note that 2019 is being used as the comparison because it's the last year of travel prior to the onset of the pandemic. And it was also the best year in tourism, so we're actually challenging ourselves by using the highest bar ever as our comparison. So the question is, where do we expect to be by the end of this year? And what are we forecasting it to be? I've set the Department of Tourism a target of 40% of the 2019 tourism accommodation revenue. We anticipate that we would need approximately 200,000 stayover visitors by the end of this year, the 31st of December, to achieve this target. Well, if my Department of Tourism delivers more than that, then let's just say call it icing on the cake. But in all seriousness, judging by the numbers and how they're trending, I am confident that we are on target to deliver over 250,000 visitors by the end of this year. Let's take a look now at where our visitors are traveling from in 2022. The United States remains our main source market, accounting for approximately 80% of our stayover arrivals. Our top 3 performing states are New York with 11%, Texas with 10.9%, and Florida with 9.7%. Although the majority of our visitors arrive from the United States, visitation from Canada in July were actually 8% higher in 2022 than in July of 2019. When analyzing our results, it's important that we view them in context, though, particularly against the backdrop of the pandemic. Because of the swift and decisive actions taken to combat the spread of COVID-19, our islands became known of having the strictest containment policies within the region, if not in the world. And trust me, I know this as the Minister of Tourism. The government's policy was to protect lives above all else. And so we closed our borders to keep our residents safe. We took care of our people for well over a year without any tourism because we had our financial services sector to rely on. Looking back, we were one of the first islands to close our borders and among the last to reopening. But all of that changed just 3 weeks ago when the last of our remaining travel restrictions were finally lifted. And there was a celebration party, I can promise you that, within my department. What we noticed during our phased border reopening was that each time our travel restrictions were relaxed, there were corresponding increase in visitor arrivals. This occurred in November 2021 when the travel restrictions were first eased for the first time. It happened again in January 2022 when unvaccinated children were allowed to travel with their vaccinated parents. And we saw it once more in February when the mandate for LFT testing on days 2, 5, and 7 after arrival was removed. In June, when the mask mandate was removed and visitors no longer had to wear masks indoors or on aircrafts, visitations for the month of June peaked at 26,000 stayover visitors. Having removed all restrictions in August, we're expecting a similar impact on air arrivals, especially as we move forward into the winter season. Our data shows that visitors are staying longer in our islands. This is beneficial to our hotels and businesses within our tourism sector as it translates to a stronger economic impact. Our data also shows that 48.1% of our stayover guests are repeat visitors, with a 3.5% higher this year than it was in 2019. Based on the data from the STR, which compares our average daily rate in 2019 to the year of 2022, we can see that room rates have returned to the pre-pandemic levels. We all know that the rate a hotel is able to charge per night is driven by market forces. This tells us for the first half of this year, there was a high demand for hotel rooms and travelers have been willing to pay more for a chance to vacation in the Cayman Islands after the challenges and stresses of being locked away with COVID-19. Another interesting fact highlighted by the data shows that our visitors' average age was 43, which is aligned with our more affluent target audience. Though we have a long way to go to get back to our pre-pandemic arrivals, the month-on-month increase demonstrates that for every key performance indicator, the needle is moving in the right direction. And to borrow a phrase from my Director of Tourism, Ms. Rosa Harris, Airlift is the oxygen to our tourism. And that's why we always have that in the back of our minds when speaking about the industry. Because without Airlift, travelers have no way of getting to our beautiful islands to experience our amazing tourism product. I'm happy to say that there will be a 1% increase in airline seats when compared to the fourth quarter of 2019. The net growth in seats is driven in part by increase in American airline connections through Charlotte and Miami, Southwest's strong feeder markets in Texas, United's growth in Washington, D.C. and Newark, and a new nonstop route from Baltimore-Washington Gateway. This increase in news is a sign of confidence in our destination by international airlines, especially at a time when some other destinations are experiencing reduced frequency. I'm also excited to say that on the 5th of November of this year, our national airline, Cayman Airways, will be launching a new nonstop service to Los Angeles, California, with 160 seats on each flight. Once this service becomes operational, it will be a game changer for our destination. Why? Because it will be easier for travelers from Los Angeles and other feeder markets such as San Francisco and Seattle to have access to our beautiful country. And in fact, they will be able to fly here in less time than you can fly to Hawaii. The Los Angeles route is serviced by our new Boeing 737-8 jet aircrafts and will also provide more options for travelers originating from Asia and Australia. This will help open up other destinations this will open up our destination to even more markets that haven't been served. And because the new jets are capable of flying longer distances, it gives us the opportunity to consider other unserved markets. For example, Vancouver. This new service, coupled with the 1% increase in capacity, gives the Cayman Islands tourism industry reason to be optimistic about the 2022 and 2023 winter season, and it will help us get back on track from our pre-pandemic visitation numbers. Now, looking at our room stock, which includes condos, villas, hotels, there is 7,161 rooms in the accommodation sector, shared across the 3 islands as follows: 6,728 in Grand Cayman, 268 in Cayman Brac, and 165 in Little Cayman. In terms of actual properties, our accommodation sectors comprise of 23 hotels, 612 apartments, and 316 guest houses. Despite the pandemic, development in this sector has been ongoing, and there are 9 properties in the pipeline, which include 5 completion dates ranging from the year 2023 to 2025. When completed, these new properties will serve several new international brands to our accommodation sector and will provide jobs in the industry. And they include 1, Vida Cayman with 18 bungalows with a completion date of 2023, Kilani with 80 rooms consisting of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom suites with a completion date of 2023. Number 3, Hotel Indigo with 282 rooms with a completion date of 2024. Grand Hyatt Hotel and Residence with 351 rooms with a completion date in 2024. 5, 1GT Boutique Hotel with 177 rooms with a completion date of 2025. 6, the Mandarin Oriental Hotel with 100 hotel rooms with 89 residences with a completion date to be announced. 7, an eco resort at the Barefoot Beach with 89 cottages with a completion date to be announced. And 8, Revive Healing Resort and Spa with 28 bungalows with a completion date to be announced. And finally, a hotel and canal planned development area by the Dart Group with rooms and the completion date to be announced. Against this backdrop of development, it's important that the tourism product is continually being refreshed to give visitors something new to experience during their visit. Several food and beverage businesses have recently opened, offering a wide range of options for our visitors to try. These include 8 new restaurants, 5 bars, 5 mobile food stands, and 2 new mini-marts. Among the new restaurants, there is more focus on vegan and natural foods, which I should be eating a lot more of, catering to the increase in health and conscious visitors. And our coffee lovers have not been forgotten, as a second Starbucks coffee house has recently opened in the heart of our capital, Georgetown. New experiences also include art galleries and studios, and the Ministry of Tourism hopes to provide more support to events such as Cayman Art Week, which has strong appeal to art lovers and enthusiasts in the emerging art tourism trend. Let's turn our attention now to marketing. The fact that we operate in a competitive market, the Department of Tourism is constantly strengthening and refreshing its advertising promotions. This is to drive demand for inbound travel to the Cayman Islands. In March of 2019, the Department of Tourism launched our Dream in Cayman advertising campaign. It captured the Cayman Islands' unique identity and showcased our attributes in a way that differentiated us from the other Caribbean islands. The Dream in Cayman campaign was designed to create a feeling of charm and mystique, looking more like a luxury brand and less like destination advertising. After all, where else in the world can one dance with the stingrays in the morning, meet a blue iguana in the afternoon, and feast on a five-star cuisine in the same day? Let's take a look.
Beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me, my lover stands on golden sands and watches the ships that go sailing. Somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me.
Wow, what a beautiful video. The campaign was a tremendous success. And if I see you at the Caribbean Travel Marketplace in Puerto Rico next month, you'll get to see the evolution of the Dream in Cayman campaign, Dream 2.0, which we'll launch in the fall. And trust me, you're going to be excited. Now, I would like to talk to you about a project that the Ministry of Tourism is spearheading. It's something that I'm really excited about because it will benefit the tourism industry and will create meaningful opportunities for my Caymanian people. And that is the development of a completely new tourism attraction in the heart of Georgetown that will create a multi-purpose tourism venue. Once completed in 2024, it will integrate training, leisure, dining, and entertainment all in one central location. This waterfront tourism experience will provide a home base to showcase our Caymanian culture, expressed through food, arts, craft, and music. But most importantly, it will offer on-the-job training and work experience for Caymanians in the tourism industry. With projects such as this, location, location, location is the most important factor. And this location in the heart of our capital, Georgetown, more than fulfills that requirement. The property is almost 2 acres in size with a stunning ocean view. It has over 28,000 square feet of space that will provide a new home for our Cayman Islands craft market. It will be used as a venue to host musical events and many celebrations. Aside from all the attributes, it's located just minutes away from a new tourism product, which is also in development and will become a Hilton-branded hotel with 80 new rooms. I want to turn my attention now to the cruise sector, which is also an important part of the Cayman Islands tourism product. Since our port reopened to cruise in March of this year, Within the first 3 months, there were 77 cruise calls carrying close to 213,000 passengers. This performance is encouraging, and the feedback from the Caymanian small businesses and entrepreneurs who work in this sector has been very positive. They're happy that we have reopened, allowing their businesses to return back to normal operations. In a typical year, cruise passengers make up 75% of our visitor arrivals. Therefore, it's important that this sector develops in a manner that is cohesive and sustainable well into the future. To this end, the Ministry of Tourism has commissioned a cruise tourism strategy, which can be best described as a roadmap for redesigning our current approach. The goal is to focus more intently on quality, sustainability, and capacity management. So, ladies and gentlemen, would you agree with me, by judging by the numbers I've highlighted to you this morning, even though that we have a lot of work to do, there is very good reason to be optimistic. And by how the Cayman Islands tourism industry is trending, I think next year is going to be a very happy one. We know that there is a lot of pent-up demand from people around the world, and they have started traveling again after being stuck at home for 2 years. Our goal is to bring them here and give them unforgettable experiences. Good morning, Gigi. And convert them into loyal Cayman Islands visitors who continue to return year after year. My team and I are working hard to ensure that our tourism product, firstly, contributes to our economy. Secondly, preserves our precious natural and cultural heritage, but most importantly, creates an opportunity to display the beauty and friendliness of our people. With that being said, I want to say thank you so much for your attention. It's truly been a pleasure spending the time with you this morning, and I expect nothing less than some major headlines for the Cayman Islands and our tourism offerings. I will have a seat now and wait for your questions to have them answered.
Thank you so much, Minister Bryan. I don't know about you, but I am interested in diving with the stingrays. Are you? Okay, the floor is now open for questions. Minister Bryan alluded to several projects and initiatives, marketing strategies, so I'm sure you have lots of questions. So if you raise your hands, I see several hands raised. So I'm going to go in order of the front and then the back row. Is that okay? So if you, yes? If you state your name and media entity, you can pose your question, and I'll bring the microphone to you.
Hi, I'm Marcia with Travel Pulse Canada.
Hi.
I just wanted to maybe explain any plans you might have to grow the Canadian market. I realize it's only 7%, but then when I saw New York is the #1 U.S. State for U.S. travel, Toronto's very close to New York. We're very similar, so I just wondered if you have any plans to kind of continue your grow visitation from Canada.
I'll give a shot at that first, and then allow my director to follow up with the finer details. Canada is very, very important to us. We have a strong relationship with Canada for many, many decades in our development of tourism. Obviously, Canada is a little bit farther away, and now that we have our new fleet of 4 737-8 MAX jets, we believe this will give us the opportunity to hit any province in Canada. One of the areas of focus will be Vancouver, as we want to go to the western side of the world from us with the Asian markets. Vancouver also has a large Asian population with high net worth, which is our key focus. So Canada is within our target to increase, but we have to analyze the numbers on which parts to stop at. We do have a lot of Canadians traveling to the United States as well, but we do plan to continue to grow that area. Mic for her.
We have some goals for our national airline, Cayman Airways.
Gina. In the active promotional planning, we actually invested more monies in our promotions for Canada. During the pandemic and also for the upcoming winter season, we've had some great broadcast wins in the last 2 years, and we've been hosting a lot more media and travel trade in the destination. So we see the return on our investment out of Canada. The formula, though, is, as you can see, yes, it's a secondary market for us, but also in the Toronto areas where the largest portion of the market share originates. So our opportunities are always diversification, diversification. We'd like to see persons coming from many other provinces throughout Canada. Thank you.
Good question.
Bren, we'll go from the end of the second row then. Yes, Gina?
Thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Janet Silvera. I'm with the RJR Gleaner Communications Group out of Jamaica. And listening to you, Minister, it sounded as if you are prone to ensuring that your hotels are not bigger than, say, 500 rooms. Am I correct in saying this? And is it intentional? Is it that you are trying to ensure that you protect the environment? One. Two, my second question is related to, since reopening your market, and you may have said this because I was a little bit late, how has your arrival figures been? In other words, for the last maybe 6 months? What have your arrival figures been? Two, and three, last one, revenue. Can we talk about revenue? How much you have earned from the industry since reopening? Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Janet, and thank you so much for the question. And it's sad that you missed the first part, because all of those answers were there. And I'm happy to sit aside and not take up most of the time for questioning to address those separately. But in respect to your question that was not within my delivery, in respect to the sizing of the hotels, is there a policy directly from our government and governments past to have the size of the hotels small? Not deliberately, but it definitely works well with our market. As you can tell, we're a very expensive destination because we are the cream of the crop. And the expectation in that delivery comes with a special type of approach. And sometimes the all-inclusive element is not something we want to deliver. So a more private, intimate service is what we always try to give our guests to make sure that their memories are never forgotten. So I'm happy to answer about the revenues and exactly the figures and their growth over the last 6 months for the first part of this year, off record.
Just a quick reminder, one question per journalist so everyone can get their questions in.
My name is Jürgen Steinmetz. I'm with eTurbo News in Honolulu, Hawaii. I really appreciate your memo that the flight to Cayman is now shorter than to Hawaii, and I have tons of questions, but there's only one, and so hopefully we have the time, all of us, to talk to you separately. But this is a conference basically by the Caribbean Tourism Organization. I would assume discussing cooperation and how the Caribbean goes out as one Caribbean. Looking at the Caribbean, there are challenges in connectivity between the islands, for example. So selling it as one destination is pretty much impossible. So I'm wondering, in your upcoming discussions, how would Cayman Island fit in more like a competitor, taking your own business, your niche market, or would you see Cayman Island also more as a team player, trying to find solutions how Caribbean could be marketed jointly? And that, of course, needs the establishment of an airline, for example, or connectivity issues that need to be resolved first. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. It's probably the most difficult question to answer, because that's why we're all here. Multi-destination travel is something that many people in the Caribbean believe that, though complicated, could potentially offer benefits for everyone. To answer the question as to what Cayman, where Cayman will fall in that, whether we're going to jeopardize our niche market or what role we're going to play, that's the purpose of the dialogue for this conference. CTO and IATA both play major roles. You have tourism and aviation, as you heard me say. Aviation is the oxygen to any tourism product. So finding out whether or not can we all benefit with the similar theory of a One Caribbean. We will have panel discussions about that on Wednesday, I apologize. And I hope that all of us, with our inputs and analysis on the various different things, from cost to infrastructure to loan availability to percentages to difference in language and regions and distances of flights, all of these factors are going to contribute to what our analysis is. And you're right, it may be impossible, but the obligation from us as leaders to examine, could we get more? Because we believe in the Caribbean that we have the best vacation anywhere else in the world. And we have a duty to our people to examine that. And I think there's a lot of things that are going to be realized in that discussion. And I look forward to giving my contribution then, so you can get a lot more answers at that time.
Hi, Brian Major from Travel Pulse. Cruise has been very controversial at times in the Cayman Islands, and as you mentioned, it's 75% of the tourist arrivals, so that's obviously a key sector. And we know that the project a few years ago to build a land-based terminal pier is not going to happen. At the same time, the cruise lines are telling us that they're going to continue to build larger ships. For Cayman, that will continue to mean anchoring offshore, which the cruise lines say they don't like, they don't want to do. And you've mentioned that you're going to reconstitute the approach to cruise. Can you talk a little bit more about that and what you see as a as a landscape for cruise here in the Cayman Islands? It's also so important to the cruise lines geographically to have the Cayman Islands as a port. Can you talk a bit about that?
Thank you so much for the question. I want to first say that we have a wonderful relationship with the cruise sector and the major partners, particularly that of Florida Caribbean Cruise Line and other associations. And everything is about relationships and respecting each other's wants and benefits. And we recognize that they're trying to make more money with bigger ships, but we also recognize that we are a very special little island and we want things a particular way. I am a representative of my people, and my people have said that the environment is more important to them and the longevity of our country from a sustainable perspective than cruise itself. But that doesn't mean that we cannot do both things and win. We've had many conversations with the cruise lines to say, even if we have to upgrade our tendering process to make it more comfortable, but buy better tenders, make them more luxurious, make them able to dock better at these ships, those things can be investigated to continue it. Because you're right, the Cayman Islands is important to them, and they are important to the Cayman Islands product. You talked about the 75% and where we're going moving forward. Our goal is to hold fast on that number and not grow much more than that, because we recognize that our environment can only handle so much, and that it starts to affect the experience of those who come here. So the experiences of the people who come here is most important, because that allows them to become repeat guests. And repeat guests will give you a lot more money than persons who come once. So I'm not worried about the relationship. We are committed as a country to spend the necessary monies to facilitate the growth as they grow and we grow, but to ensure that it's not at the sacrifice of our environment. This administration is all about sustainability and protection of it. I think that yes, thank you very much, Director. I think it's also important that we highlight that eventually we're going to have to separate the two worlds of cargo and cruise, which we currently have. I think it's an unfortunate issue of our fast growth, because at first we didn't have a lot of cruise. when we first got into the world of tourism, we were mainly focused on financial services. So naturally, because it's one of the best harbors in the country, we just did cruise right next to cargo. And as minister, not only for tourism, I'm also the minister for ports and transport, which I'm obligated to investigate where's the future of our country as our population has grown over the last 3 years, just 10% more than what we had at the last census. So we have to examine now, do we want to keep the cargo elements there? And if that is decided as the people through their representatives that it has to move somewhere else, it opens up tremendous opportunities to offer a better cruise tourism product. But again, the most important part is sustainability for our environment. We can't overload it. We have to respect it. That's what gives us our money. So I want to make sure I leave you with that thought.
Are there any more questions? More?
Good morning, Minister Bryan. It's Norma Connolly from the Compass
Hi,
newspaper.
good morning.
Good morning. Quick question relating to an increase in air travel and airlift. Before the pandemic, we were seeing at the airport bottlenecks because of the times of departures of flights to meet the hub timetables. Is there any steps being taken to address that as we see an increase in airlift going forward?
Thank you so much. Yes, but it is a good problem to have. I think 8 months ago, everybody was like, please, please, planes, come back, come back, come back. So it's a good problem to have, but one that we recognize and we're intending to resolve. How best to do that is to work with the airlines with better scheduling to spread the arrivals along the 18 hours that we're open. The bottleneck is every airline wants to come exactly at the same time. Thinking that we just renewed the airport and expanded it, nobody knew that the numbers, the airport would have still not been able to deal with so many planes at one time. So the ways we're doing that is I'm working with the Honorable Deputy Premier, who's in charge of our border control, to fast track people who are arriving and dealing with also customs. So a lot of the time spent at the airport is picking up your bags and checking to see if you have imported anything. What we recognize is importation duties is so minuscule compared to the value of the service and them enjoying the transition off the plane into a taxi and into a hotel, that we're almost subsidizing and saying, you know what, don't worry about that. Let's give you a pre-check, and if you almost basically say you have nothing to declare, you just grab your bag and you're gone. So we're working on little small things to speed it up, but ideally, what's most important is that we have to expand our airport again. Yeah, again, I say a good problem to have, but we're working on that. Matter of fact, we've commissioned a review on the expansion of the airport, which we hope to have that report back hopefully within 8 months. Where is Gigi? About 8 months, and that will tell us where we need to be, because we are moving faster than we ever thought. But again, a good problem to have.
Team. Thank you. The airport, the Cayman Islands Airport Authority has a team and a scheduling system for all airlines to bid on the times that they come in. That was particularly important when we had restrictions in place and we had queue management. It's still in place because, of course, the capacity management is continuing and our COVID controls are continuing in terms of, how do we manage people through the facility. But as the minister said, the facility does need to get bigger, or we get another airport.
And I'm working on all two of them. But just to also highlight, I think you may have been maybe aware of this, but the airport did purchase a slot management system that is managed outside of Cayman, but that helps us to balance out rather than a peak, to level it out, to take better advantage of the access to the airport.
Martin Steady from Selling Travel Magazine in the UK.
Yes, sir.
Trade magazine. We've been working with the CTO for many years now. We publish an annual review for publication for you from the UK. Picking up from Marsha's question about Canada, it's an obvious question to ask about the UK as well. It is kind of surprising to see just how small the percentage is. And I think the perception from the UK is that it's an opportunity for massive growth, frankly. That's our perception. But I'm wondering what your view is on that.
Well, just like Canada, the United Kingdom, particularly because we're a British overseas territory, is very, very important to us. It's also a feeder market for much of Europe. So yes, we want to grow that, but we have to work with the partners available, and that is British Airways. Virgin also showed an interest in traveling to the Cayman Islands, and there was some difficulties with the airport, the length of the airport, and the type of planes that they use. It's something that review of our airport will address to see whether it's something we have to consider expanding the airport or not to increase those numbers. Also, I know that you're aware that some of the other Caribbean islands are getting into much other European flights, and it'll be another gateway for them to get to the Cayman Islands, because I believe that though some other major airlines, and I want to mention other jurisdictions' developments, but though they may have other major airlines going into their jurisdiction, they do not offer what the Cayman Islands offer. So I see actually them traveling into other Caribbean islands and potentially coming to the Cayman Islands, which is a component of what we're going to be discussing at this conference on Wednesday, is where is the multi-destination travel benefit? Maybe they stop over there for 2 days and come to the Cayman Islands for 7. So these are the types of things that we'll be promoting, and our campaign will start to change as the developments of different airlines and availability come into play.
Wonderful. Thank you so much to the media. Thank you so much, Minister Bryan. Director of Tourism, Rosa Harris, thank you so much.
Folks, I just want to say in my closing, thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful time. And don't work too much. Have a little fun while you're here. All right, thank you so much.